cartwheels. Like a lot of the acrobatic type motions that I do, it took me a long time to learn how to do even a basic cartwheel. So today I want to share with you a couple of exercises and progressions and tips so that hopefully you can learn how to cartwheel a lot quicker than I did. So you don't actually need a ton of shoulder strength or flexibility in order to do a cartwheel. You're not really supporting your weight up in a handstand so much as you're helping your weight transfer over in the air. So much of that momentum carries through when you're doing the full cartwheel that you don't need all of the strength and flexibility that you might think you do. That being said, having some strength and flexibility does help. So we're going to look at one exercise that will help to develop the shoulder strength and flexibility a little bit. You'll see that I'm not super good at it anyway. And then we'll look at a progression that helps educate your body how to move through the motion and learn how to cartwheel progressively, starting from something that's pretty ugly, and I don't think anyone would call a cartwheel, but sometimes those ugly, awkward beginnings are the best ways to introduce yourself to the motion. So the exercise to begin with, we're going to do something of a really bad downward dog from yoga. I hesitate to even call it that because mine's probably going to look really bad. But if we start from our hands and our knees here, just to get used to the idea of carrying some weight in our shoulders and transferring our weight from leg to leg as we do so, from our hands and knees, we're going to push back to our heels when we straighten the legs. And I really want to think about taking my head between my shoulders, down and in. So this is my head between my shoulders is where it's going to be in a cartwheel as I transfer my weight from hand to hand. You can start working on that transfer just a little bit with your sway. You can push up to transfer more weight into your shoulders, or you can lift one leg or the other, again, to practice shifting your weight a little bit. And then ultimately what you want to do is really extend and reach that heel up behind you with the toes pointed down. And that's a really nice stretch as you push through your hands and lift that heel to help educate your cartwheel. The other thing that you can do from here is open your hip by turning your toes to the outside. And you'll find that starts to pull this hand up and out off the ground. And that's the idea, right? That's the motion that you want. On the other side, once you've lifted your heel high, opening your hip starts to also open your shoulder and pull that shoulder up. And that's part of the motion that we'll use in our progression next. The movement progression might feel a little similar to the butterfly kick progression. But in the butterfly kick, right, we want to stay horizontal to the ground. And here we're looking for ultimately a more vertical torso. And we're not going to have the kind of support structure that we did for the butterfly kick. We're just going to use the ground because ultimately that's what we'll be putting our hands on for the cartwheel anyway. So to start, I like to call this a chillaxing position. I have one knee down and one knee up, and the same hand as knee is down, I can reach behind me and out to the side. This is going to be my first hand. My other hand is going to reach over my head, over the top, as I push my hips up. And I roll along that knee, reaching beside my first hand, put the other hand down, put my knee down, lift my knee up, lift my hand up, and now I'm chillaxing on the other side. I go one hand, and I reach up and over for the other hand as I transfer from knee to knee. Over the top, really reach up and over the top to get these hands in a line here before you come down from your knees. Once you've done that a few times and you're used to it, we're going to bring the height up a little bit more by transferring from foot to foot instead of knee to knee. I'm still reaching with my first hand, extending my hips by pushing through my other foot, and reaching over my head with the other hand. But I'm going to roll along the edge of my foot, bring my other foot down, and roll off of that to find that same position on the other side. Again, I'm reaching, extending, and going foot to foot instead of knee to knee. I reach up, foot comes down, and I go from side to side. Again, this is just elevating my hips and my body a little bit more. I'm learning how to put a little bit of weight into my hands, and I'm educating hand, hand, foot, foot, which is the same sequence that will happen when we raise a little bit higher with the cartwheel. These were both progressions from sitting, so now let's go to a low squat. Wherever your low squat happens to be, I'm still going to reach in the same way that I did from my chillaxing position. Same foot that is forward. We'll call it forward. Even if you're thinking side to side, it doesn't really matter for now. We'll call it forward. Same hand, that's going to be the first hand that comes down. And I want to reach up and over so that I put the other one down beside it. Not in front of me, but all the way beside the other hand. And you'll notice even from a low squat, as I reach out, that back foot's going to want to come off the ground. That's the foot that I want to elevate in the swing in my cartwheel. So as I reach, this foot comes up, and I just give a little hop here. Little hop. To get to the other foot and bring it all the way down. So I'm kind of in a low squat. Same side reaches. The other side reaches over the top, and I just give it a little hop. That's not going to look very much like a gymnastics cartwheel. I'm kind of bent over and crouched down, but this isn't a traditional gymnastics progression. We're just looking at getting used to the motion and the movements. So from my low squat, I reach to the side, and I reach over the top. And you can have your legs bent, and you don't need to kick them high. They can swing around. We're just getting used to the motion. And a little bit quicker, you give a little bit of hop, that back leg. The back leg pulls up behind you, you push off the front leg a little bit, you reach hand, and you get yourself a little bit of a motion like that. I'm going side to side, by the way. You can just pick one side, whichever one feels good to you, and practice that a bunch. I'm going side to side for the sake of the camera, and because I like to practice both sides. And one of the big things that happens when people try to cartwheel is they don't open this other hand up. They think about handstand, maybe they kick really hard, and then they don't know if they need to rotate that way or that way. Either way, your hands are bound up. That's usually when people fall over. So even though we're not doing a beautiful, straight, extended cartwheel yet, the idea is we're learning how to open our shoulder and which leg to kick to initiate this motion. Maybe I'm a little bit higher, I'm not squatting quite as low. Maybe I reach a little bit more with my hands. But once you get used to that motion, you can start to extend a little bit more, maybe kick a little bit harder, maybe straighten that leg a little bit more as you kick up behind. So you go from something that's pretty bent over and small, and you reach and extend, straighten your posture and your spine and your limbs, just a little bit more. And then a little bit more. And then maybe instead of going this outward swing, maybe you start to turn down a little bit and kick behind you a little bit. And you get a little bit more of a cartwheel. And you get something starting to look more and more like a cartwheel. And once you have something that's functionally close to a cartwheel, I think there's a lot of benefit from changing some of the variables a little bit. Changing up the energy that you're entering it with, maybe what footwork you use, adjusting your hand placement slightly, trying to get more air, making it long, making it short. Play with all of these different attributes of your cartwheel so that you can find out what works for you and what you want out of the cartwheel. Once you have a functional, basic motion, there's a lot of different ways that you can play with it. I made a short with some of those options, so you can click the link, the button, to go to that. It's going to be in one of the corners. I can never remember which corner it's in, but it's going to be in one of the corners. And check that out. And I hope that this progression, even though it starts kind of awkward and ugly, you can use it slowly over time with lots of repetition to eventually build a nice, big, beautiful cartwheel. And if you haven't cartwheeled in a long time, or maybe you never knew how to cartwheel, I super encourage you to practice it a little bit and give it a try. Cartwheels are just joyful in my experience. I love doing them.